Welcome on into the Wolverine recruiting show. Clayton Safey here with EJ Holland. We are going to kind of recap some of the top storylines of the week, obviously surrounding Michigan recruiting. Barbecue, the Big House was last week. We will start there. We'll also get to some new DB offers. We will also get to a top target who set a decision date. But EJ, let's start with the barbecue. Lots of unofficial visitors in town to, of course, eat some barbecue at the Big House, as is in the name, but also got to hang out at Jim Harbaugh's house. They got to probably some of them enjoy the pool if they wanted. It seems like he's been having some pool parties over there for recruits, which have been a major hit. But obviously as well, just getting a look at the campus again, getting a look at the facilities, taking everything in, taking some snapshots, some photos. What were some of your top takeaways that coming out of the weekend?
Yeah, I think that, obviously number one is Michigan got Josh Connerly on campus, Rivals 100 offensive lineman out of the Pacific Northwest. For Connerly to make that long of a trip on his own dime, I think speaks volumes of his interest in Michigan. On top of that, he's scheduled to make an official visit in September, probably for that game against Washington. So I think Michigan is very, very much a major player in his recruitment. I think Michigan has definitely moved up the list. I do feel like Washington remains the favorite. Obviously, it's a lot closer to home. They've been recruiting him a lot longer. I feel like right now Michigan is probably in that top three range with him though. So I think Sharon Moore's done a really nice job. Remember, Jim Harbaugh flew out to Seattle to see him at the end of June as well. So Michigan making a move there. Not a lot of top 100 recruits left on the board. So Connerly, one of the more important targets for this cycle. The other thing that really stood out to me was the nose tackle recruits they got on campus. They got Deion Walker, priority target, Kenneth Grant, priority target, Isaiah Hastings, new target, all on campus same weekend. With Deion Walker, I said it would be a little disappointing if Michigan didn't close. So I think that it is a little disappointing that Michigan didn't close. I still feel like the Wolverines are the favorites, but Alabama offered just 24 hours after Walker's visit. So the fact that Michigan didn't close allowed the door to stay open for some more top tier programs to get involved with Walker. Still, he really enjoyed his visit on campus. I think he's seen as much as he's needed to see with Michigan. If he continues to delay his process, it's really going to come down to wins on the field. Kenneth Grant, Michigan identified him early on, made another strong impression. His mom came to campus, really liked it. I think with him, a lot of it's going to depend on how hard Ohio State pushes. Ohio State had him on campus for an OV last month, and they're still very much involved there. But Michigan got him on campus twice for unofficials, and we'll get him on campus again for an official in the fall. So, if you can land Walker and Grant, that is a dynamite 340-pound duo. And then you have Isaiah Hastings, who's kind of blowing up on the trail. Originally from Canada, he's at Clearwater International in Florida. Michigan in the top group after the visit, so I think it was just great for the staff to get in three big nose tackle targets, true nose tackle type guys. And then, other than that, I think, Michigan got some other key targets on campus. You look at, sticking with 2022, they had Andre Stewart on campus, a Kentucky defensive back commit that they're looking to flip. And in 2023, they had Rivals 100 offensive lineman Luke Montgomery, four-star in-state offensive lineman Amir Herring, all on campus. They obviously had a boatload of commits, so they had a chance to bond. You had Will Johnson, Miles Pollard, Cody Jones, Connor Jones, etc. Mario Eugenio made the trip all the way out from Florida. CJ Stokes came back all the way out from South Carolina. So I think it was a good time for the commits to all bond with each other and continue to get to know each other as they try to build up the rest of the class. So overall, the event produced no commits, which I think fans are going to be disappointed with. But I do think it built some positive momentum with a few key targets, and I do think the commits really enjoyed their time on campus.
Yeah, you're not always going to see the fruits of the labor right away, but could possibly end up being, a weekend that you look back on and say, oh, yeah, that ended up being a game changer for this kid or or even when they take other visits in the fall, and they can look back at their time at Michigan and say, yeah, I felt most comfortable there. So it could take some time, with some of these kids. Moving on to the next topic, Joshua Josephs has set a decision date. 3-star weak side defensive end out of Georgia, as I see it there pulled up on my computer screen. EJ, what do you take from him setting that decision date? Is that good for Michigan, or is it good for somebody else?
I think it's pretty neutral. Like Joshua Joseph setting an October 1st decision date allows him to see how some of his top schools do in the fall. It allows him to get back on some of these campuses. Right now, I think Michigan is a major player. They've made him a top priority as an edge rusher. And even though Michigan has a trio of edge rushers committed, Mario Eugenio, Micah Pollard, Cavante Henry, two of those guys are flex guys. Micah Pollard being one who can play a traditional outside linebacker role, Mario Eugenio being the other who can play more of an end type of role with his hand in the dirt. So they really love Joshua Josephs. Again, they've made him a top priority for a long time. They see him as a pure edge rusher that can get after the quarterback in the same mold as Cavante Henry. I think they have Josephs and have had Josephs on the board, higher on the board than Henry. So he's one of the biggest remaining targets for Michigan. But like I said, there are some SEC schools involved there. Kentucky is pressing really hard. They had him on campus. Auburn has gotten a little more involved there. There are a few other SEC programs in the mix. Penn State had him on campus for an official visit. So with him, I don't think this date means anything for any one school. I think he's just giving himself a timeline and then wanting to see how these schools produce in the fall. I think Michigan has done as good of a job as possible with Josephs. I think Ryan Osborne, Michigan's new defensive analyst, who's in charge of leading the way with edge rushers, has done a fantastic job of building a relationship with Josephs and his family. They were on campus for Victor's weekend and were blown away with everything. I think if Michigan wins on the field, this is very much a recruitment that they can win as well. But some, stiff competition, and we'll just have to see how Michigan produces on the field. And not just with Josephs, but we talked about Walker, we talked about Kenneth Grant. These are guys that may all decide in the fall. So Michigan's on the field results could very well have a huge impact on how the Wolverines close out the rest of this cycle.
Definitely, as the cycle continues, nearing the fall, it does feel like how the season plays out is going to have a huge bearing on how some of these recruitments play out. And that could include defensive backs. The board expanding there, which is the last thing that we will hit on. That includes Jaheem Singletary, who recently decommitted from Ohio State. Soon thereafter, Jim Harbaugh personally reaches out, offers an official scholarship offer, which, by the way, could start being handed out on August 1st. So, a little rivalry, a little gamesmanship there. What'd you take from that? And what do you take from some of the other guys that are popping up on the board and earning offers?
Yeah, so Michigan's expanding that secondary board with Dylan Tatum still undecided, and Jaleel Florence, who they identified early, still undecided as well. Michigan's getting some new options. Remember, there was original talk that Michigan wanted to take 6 DBs, right? So right now they only have three: Cody Jones, Will Johnson, and Miles Pollard. And Cody Jones looks like he's going to make an OV to Florida in the fall. So, he's not necessarily a guarantee to sign. So Michigan's expanding the DB board, seeing what's out there. Jaheem Singletary, one of the top overall prospects in the nation. I believe Rivals has him ranked like number 5 overall or something kind of crazy like that. I saw him last year, like an entire calendar year ago, playing 7-on-7 out at Pylon, Las Vegas. I mean, he's a big athletic corner, would really complement Will and Miles Pollard extremely well. But he's going to be a tough land. I mean, he decommitted from Ohio State, reportedly in large reason because he wants to be closer to home. He made a visit to Georgia over the weekend. He's been to Florida plenty of times. Miami's coming after him extremely hard. Some other SEC schools also involved there. So I think he's going to be a really, really tough land for Michigan. So, he's probably the guy that they have the least chance with of the 3 that they offered over the weekend. Another intriguing offer was TJ Hall, who is currently committed to Washington. He's actually from the Fresno area and was originally committed to Arizona, flipped to Washington on July 31st. Michigan offered on August 1st. So it'll be interesting to see if Michigan can make any movement there. The key plug in that recruitment is Courtney Morgan, who recruited Hall at Fresno State. So there's, again, a tie there. And we'll see if Morgan can maybe create some movement with Washington's newest commit. But the guy they might have the best chance with is Ephesians Prysock. Ephesians was on campus for an unofficial visit for the barbecue at the Big House. Some of the schools that he was really high on early on have moved on to other options like Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC. So I think the door is pretty open with him. He really enjoyed his visit. He ended up getting an offer out of the visit. He loved his private workout with Steve Clinkscale. And, Michigan's had some success in the LA area in the past with Courtney Morgan on board, who's very familiar with those around Ephesians recruitment. I think that helps as well. So I think he's a sleeper guy that could end up in the class. Not a sleeper in terms of his ranking, but just a guy that we're not talking a lot about right now because he's kind of new. But I could easily see him in the class, especially with some of his other options kind of going away, and with Michigan making full court press. He's a tall, long corner that can also play safety, so they like his versatility. And I mean, even though he's had some schools back off recently, he's still a Rivals 250 prospect. He's still a guy that at one point had a very much committable offers from Ohio State and Notre Dame. So Michigan would love to have him. I think he's definitely a guy to keep an eye on moving forward.
And Ephesians would be an all-name team type of guy.
Ephesians Prysock. You can't forget the last name either.
True. But even that, yeah. Great name. So I would love for him to join the fold so we can cover him. And, obviously great. It's kind of interesting. I saw some discussion about this on the message board the other day, so I'll kind of throw it out there to you here. Michigan's philosophy on corners and kind of what they've, it seems like they've shifted that a couple times over the last couple of years. Obviously, new defensive backs coach with Steve Clinkscale, so I guess it's kind of, even more relevant right now. But what is their philosophy on, what kind of build they want a corner to have? There's going to be those elite guys like Will Johnson, who is kind of a bigger type of guy. You just take anyway. So, you're not necessarily like looking for him to fit a certain mold. He's just an elite player in and of himself. Are they looking for more of a Richard Sherman, even though that comparison sucks, as we talked about before? Bigger. He's always the guy that comes up when it's a bigger guy. Or are they looking for just the best guy at the position? Do they like some smaller, quicker guys? I guess, how have you kind of seen that evolve?
At the corner spots, at the outside corner spots, they do like tall, long corners. That's why you see Will Johnson, who you said would have committed anyway, but Miles Pollard was a focus for Clinkscale at Kentucky, and he's obviously now committed to Michigan. At safety, they still really value length, but they also value athleticism. So I've been told that, as Michigan searches for safeties, they want tall, long corners that can be turned into safeties, or safeties that have corner experience. So that's what they like at the safety spot. And then for their nickels, they would take guys that are a little, not necessarily on the smaller side, but just guys that are more in that 5'10" to 6 foot range. That's what both Dylan Tatum and Cody Jones are. That's why Jones is a nickel, Dylan being recruited as a safety / nickel. So Dylan having really great long speed. That's why he's in the Junior Olympics. Cody being known for his short burst speed as well. So I feel like, when it comes to the nickel, that's the only true difference. I think with safeties and corners, they want those tall, long guys that bring athleticism to the fold as well.
Interesting. Yeah, definitely. So there is your Michigan recruiting update for this week here on the Wolverine Recruiting Show. To follow everything in real time, head to thewolverine.com. You can use the promo code BLUE60 for 60 days of our premium content absolutely free. And we'll see everybody next time.